Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. All right, we got a caller we'll go to, and then we'll come back onto this. Good morning, Pat. How are you today?
Oh, doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent, thank you. How can I help today?
My mother passed away a few months ago, and she had a contributory IRA, two of them, and a Roth IRA. What is the rules on, do we have to start withdrawing from that this year, or didn't something change that
It did, yes.
you don't have to?
Well, actually, it was sort of, yes, actually, you're right. So a couple of things there towards that. For inheriting this year with IRAs, non-spousal IRAs, you have on these inherited IRAs now the ability, okay, to take the income rather than in the old, well, let me do it this way. In the old rules, you had to take it the year after the year in which you inherited. So if your mom passed this year, that means next year you'd have to start taking those RMDs. The Secure Act that passed in December changed that, and they implemented what's known as the 10-year rule. So this 10-year rule says you have to cash those IRAs out within 10 years. Now, are you the sole beneficiary, or are there other beneficiaries of the IRAs?
No, my brother also.
So the two of you then, you divide those up. You would want to open up. You got to be very careful with this because inherited IRA rules can be a little tricky, and no do-overs. You got to get it right the first time, because if you mess it up, the whole thing could be taxable to you in this 1 year. And if that's what you want, of course, great, but just understanding the ability to stretch it out at least over a 10-year period is there if you wish to. So you can take out, first off, there's no need to take any out this year, and even next year you can choose whether you want to take some out each year. In fact, this year, she just passed it. Was she over the age of 72?
Yeah.
Okay, so she was already taking required minimum distributions from those accounts herself. So,
right.
So this year you want to make sure that the monies that would have been attributed to her required minimum distribution for this year, that those come out for her. Okay.
Oh, okay, because she did not, already take one out for 2020, so there will have to be one?
Yes. So you need to take out those RMDs for her for this year, and those will be taxed on her final return. Okay. And then next year, it'll be a choice. You'll have 10 years then. You can take it out in 10 pieces, depending on your own tax situation and that of your brother as to which choice may work best for you. But you just have to have it all out by the end of the 10 years. So whether you take out some each year, or whether you just left it in there for the full 10 years and took it all out at the end. Keep in mind, there's a lot of tax implications with regard to your choice. So if you, for instance, you look at, well, if your income is going to change, say 5 years down the road, if you were going to retire within the next 10 years, you may want to wait until you have a lower income in retirement, for instance, and then start taking the money out. If it was a Roth IRA, of course, and I don't know, are these traditional or Roth?
Mainly traditional. There's just a tiny Roth IRA.
So I was going to say, on the Roth, you would typically wait to the end of the 10 years to take it out and take advantage of the tax-free growth. On a traditional, as I said, it depends on whether your income is going to change over these next 10 years and how you might then take money out later when your income might be lower. So if you or your brother were going to get ready to retire yourselves, that might be a time when that could be a benefit to you as a way to reduce the taxes. In other words, if you're in a higher bracket now and you start taking this money and paying a higher tax, if you were in lower bracket later and started taking it out, pay a much lower tax. So all of these are all things you'd want to weigh. Get with someone, your tax advisor, financial person, whoever helps you with that. If you don't have anyone, if you need help with that, I've got Dr. Friday's on the show all the time. I can bring her in. We can run numbers for you as well.
Okay, I appreciate it. In your opinion, I guess I probably know your answer already, but would you leave these accounts active as far as not selling everything and just turn them into cash to play this out, or?
Well, like for instance, you're going to be transferring, let's say, equally dividing the accounts between you and your brother. You're going to, as far as the option of how they're invested, you can each choose for, whether you want to keep the way they're invested now or whether you'd like to change that to a different investment. They're in retirement accounts, so tax implications aren't a concern. If you had by the way, I don't know if you had other investments outside of IRAs, but those you might treat differently. You're going to get, if you had stocks, for instance, or stock mutual funds, you'll get a step up in basis. So that's another important factor when it comes to tax implications here, understanding how the capital gains tax may work. On the IRAs themselves, just set up inherited IRA accounts, one for you, one for your brother. You then would have those funds transferred into them. Again, this is where you probably need a little help getting those type of accounts set up and making sure that the transfers go correctly from the existing custodian to the new custodian, where it'll now be an inherited IRA for you, one for your brother, and then each of you can choose for yourselves what works best as far as how you take the money out or how the money is invested, for that matter, as well.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I think we'll probably be giving your office a call here
All right.
soon.
Well, we're happy to help.
Thank you.
All right, Pat. Take care. Bye. Let's see. There we go. All right. I don't take those that often. So, Pat, hope you're doing well, and my condolences for the loss of your mom. Hope she lived a good, long life there. All right, early retirement years. Let me come back to this. I'm going to try to get as much in as I can for the shows over today. In the early retirement years, this is age 62 to early 70s. Now we start thinking of things, right? Travel, hobbies, again, those leisure activities that we enjoy. We're transitioning now from a retirement savings plan, where we've been saving money up for all these years, to where now we're going to get into a retirement spending plan. We're going to be thinking of now taking that money out. How can we do that in the most tax-efficient manner? Right, as well as stretching out those, and this is one of the things, by the way, not just your retirement accounts, but looking at all your resources to see how you're going to supplement the income you need in retirement, and how to do so, again, in a tax-efficient way. Regular reviews of financial plans for inflation and market changes. The market's ups and downs, making sure you've got a plan in place to provide the income, a stable income stream, no matter what's going on in the market. If the market's tanking, your income isn't affected, doesn't stop, doesn't change. You keep moving along, and it's going to be able to increase with inflation. That's where good planning comes in, to make sure that it's structured in such a way, your investments and retirement income planning done in such a way that this is going to be able to be done for you. My clients, this is the case. We have income, when we put together a plan, they're going to have the income they need. All my clients have the income they need in retirement. It's able to go up. They are able to take a little extra out here and there if they need to, for certain, for whatever life may bring their way. There's contingencies for all these things built into the planning to make sure they're going to be they're going to be fine throughout their retirement years. Eligibility for Medicare comes in there again. And then we get into what you need to do to make the most of that choice, get the most out of those benefits that are available to you, and minimize costs in the process. So how to make your savings last. This is one of the questions that I'm asked all the time, making sure. This is one of the biggest fears, and study after study shows that we have, is that we would run out of money during our later years. Is your investment mix organized to generate the income you need in retirement? And it's going, just as we were talking about with an income plan, how you invest is a big part of that. If you're just if you're real aggressive and say you got 80 or 90% or 100% in stocks, all right, that could be problematic with regard to income, keeping a stable income. Because if the market goes down as it did and you're still taking income from your accounts, it's going to be harder to recover from these bear markets. So having an income plan in place as a part of your investment plan is so important. How to plan for the unexpected. life's going to happen, right? We don't know what's going to come our way, but something typically is going to happen and we're going to need money for it. And having an emergency fund, having short-term funds for the needs that we are spending needs is a big part of the planning as well. What are the possible ways to manage inflation? This is one of the big ones. Well, this is why most people invest in the stock market to grow their money, because they're trying to protect the purchasing power of those dollars. So it's to save up enough to be able to have the income we need in retirement, and then to be able to have that income increase. That means our investment returns have to be higher than the taxes to cover taxes and inflation, right? Those increases in expenses to make sure our income goes up as well. And this again varies person to person. Think about it. If I start taking 4% out of an account, if I have $1 million and I take $40,000 out in that year, I need to make at least 40 on that money, right? What else do I need? I got inflation. Well, how much is inflation? Let's say we peg it in a low, it's low right now, but we typically figure somewhere around 2.5% to 3% long term. So if you're thinking of that, now I'm up around 4 plus 2.5 to 3, 6.5, 7%. Then I got taxes. So if I'm also having to take care of taxes, that means I need to make somewhere between 6 and 8% maybe on my money. Now it depends if I'm taking 4. Now if I'm taking a lower, then less so. So maybe for most people, the right range is going to be in about 5 to 6% with good planning, with making sure that we're getting the returns you need as well as managing the taxes. So if we're doing that, typically 5 to 6 for most of my clients tends to work pretty well. If we make more, great. That's just going to improve, our flexibility later in life in terms of having more resources. So understanding how these things work. Now let's look at the later retirement years is the next one. All right, so in our later retirement years, now we're talking about mid-70s and up. So now the milestones there. Typically now at that point we talk, there's an economist, Tom Hegna, and he referred to these years as in our early retirement years, he says the go-go years. This is when we've got the time and resources and hopefully the health and energy, and we're out wanting to do and go and have fun. Then comes the slow go years, right? As we've been doing this for a while, now we get into our 70s and maybe we start to slow down a bit, and then as he put it in your 80s, the no-go years. Well, we're going to talk more about the slower go years when we return. But first a break. Join me here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.